54,787 days, all come down to this. How what we create makes you feel. If it doesn't elevate your experience or enhance your well-being, if it doesn't build your confidence or inspire you with its gracious impact, it's not worthy of our name. For 150 years, our belief has always been, if it can be imagined, it can be created. And for the next 150, we will keep boldly imagining, so we can create a world that's more nurturing, more sustainable, more powerful, more beautiful. A world we're more proud of. We are artists, designers, architects, and Epicureans, inventors and curators. We are a community of creators who champion creators. Together, we have the power to shape the world we want. One space, one experience, one act of impact at a time. The next 54,787 tomorrows start today.
The creation of feelings, experiences that inspire. That beautiful image of the Kohler installation at the Salone in Milan last year was even more uplifting in real life. Congratulations to Kohler on 150 years. Welcome to the Kohler Bold Talks. The 2023 series focuses on the shape of tomorrow. And within this broad title, the topic for today's talk is Beyond Timeless Design. My name is Guy Dittrich. I'm editor-at-large of specialist hotel design magazine SLEPPER, who also have the Global Ahead Awards program and a meetings forum, SLEPPER Sessions. Thank you to Kohler for inviting me to host this talk, and of course to all our speakers and to you, our viewers. Now, we're going to look at today's idea of timeless design through the lenses of three different people, all focused on hospitality. Firstly, that of interior designer Kelly Cerner, principal and founder of Studio 11, based in Dallas, Texas. Kelly has won countless awards, both personally and with her business, whose hospitality design work spans the US for brands such as Thompson, Canopy, Canvas, W Hotels, Renaissance, and Generator. Looking after the design for some of those brands is Matt Seal of Marriott International in London. He's just been promoted to Vice President for Luxury Brands Global Design, so congratulations, Matt. And at the heart of it all, at the Kohler headquarters in Wisconsin, we have the view of their principal industrial designer, Dana Morales. And make no mistake, Kohler are also in the hospitality game, with several hotels, resorts, and golf courses, including the Old Course at St Andrews in Scotland. So thank you all for joining us. I'd like to start now by asking each of my speakers in turn about their most iconic piece of timeless design. So let's start with you, Kelly. Most timeless piece of design.
Sure. So I think what comes to mind is a project we recently finished, which is the Thompson Buckhead. And, we start with kind of a lot of the organic patterns within the neighborhood and the area. And so I think the reception desk is one that I would find as timeless design. We kind of took an architectural piece and building in the area of Buckhead and kind of flipped it on its head, and it became the reception desk, which is a very sculptural piece. And as you enter, part of your entry experience. So I think if I'm picking one, I think it's just fresh of mind because we recently installed that.
Matt, and you're probably going to get, let me guess, Marriott Hotels, maybe?
Well, yeah, I have to say, yeah, I've definitely skewed mine to, obviously there's many iconic and timeless aspects of design in many ways, but I focus mine on hotels. And I think, for me, I think one that comes to mind, and we all experience hotels, there's many to choose from, but particularly is the St. Regis in New York. That hotel has been, is a legacy, creative legacy for the brand. It's timeless. It keeps reinventing itself, and it still today is a place to go out and be seen.
And Donna, how about you? What's your favorite piece of timeless product design?
So I think when it was designed, it was not intended to be this product design the way we see it right now. But I think about safety pins. You know, safety pins, they have not changed in years since they were invented. The form is so basic, you know, a cover that protects the end and keeps it closed, and then a twist that acts as a spring. And it just keeps being, what Matt just said, it keeps being reinvented. What has changed is the way we use this object, you know, through generations and through time. We have used it for holding diapers, for keeping a piece of clothing in place.
But the jewelry?
That's where I'm going. I'm going to a piece of jewelry, and even to a symbol of punk culture. So it's this same simple object that we are all familiar with. It's an effective combination of simplicity and versatility.
Oh, this is great. Let's move on then, I think, to look at these ideas around timeless design. And I think we can really look at two aspects, in my opinion. One is design and one is functionality. Maybe not, again, at safety pins, but if we think, what are sort of the most, the aesthetic properties something must have in order to be considered timeless? Anyone?
I could probably take it. I mean, it's a difficult question, I think. You know, if you think, and it's also very difficult verbally to define, I think, as designers and creative people in the industry. You know, there are so many aspects that make up any particular design. You know, from the detail, the materiality, the execution, the lighting design, and particularly when you come back to hospitality, the you know, just the art of hosting. But I suppose if I use it, the only thing I would say is all the elements have got to work together in harmony. And if I use the analogy of a recipe, you know, if you add too much salt, it doesn't taste great, or it's not a great experience. And a design, a timeless bit of design is the same. It's a careful balance of many different aspects to kind of curate spaces that are kind of experiences for our guests. And I would use the analogy like a recipe. It's a coming together of many different elements in harmony.
Okay, that's interesting. I might ask you to come back and tell me how that recipe works at the Ritz-Carlton in New York. Kelly, you want to develop your Buckhead story, or take some other aspects of you know, what are these design aesthetics that make things timeless?
I go back, and I don't know if it's because I'm in New York and this is sort of a home to me, but you know, the series of Edition hotels is, to me, is very timeless, and it's the epicenter of timeless hotel and timeless design. And I think, you know, if I pick one element, it is the lighting, but everything is neutral and light, and but there's texture. There's no downlights that are shining down. It's everything just glows. And so to me, that's very timeless. You can add different elements throughout the years that keep it relevant, but that design will never be outdated.
You think it's sort of a bit of Schrager magic then in the editions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Attention to detail.
Yes, attention to detail.
Donna, what do you see as the essential elements? You gave us some good ideas there with regard to the safety pin, but the essential elements on as an aesthetic, you know, sort of more of the sort of beauty side of things to make a timeless design.
Yes, I think that when you have an object where the physical qualities are not affected by the pass of time, and if they are affected, is intentional. Think about a living finish that ages graciously and adds character to the object. For example, a leather briefcase that just gets better with time. So this material is created, or is intended to age that way and give character to the object. I also think that when the aesthetics of an object or a product that has been designed that are not based on a specific trend, they don't go out of style. You know, like that. This is that timeless, that it could span through different design vernaculars, that is still gonna have longevity. It's relevant today, and it will still be relevant tomorrow, despite our society always trying to change and want new things. It's like a classic novel or think about when you go to a museum and you see a famous painting, no matter how old that painting is, it's still relevant and it still has their original appeal.
And sort of be cross-cultural as well as across the ages, but also cross-cultural, make something sort of more likely to be accepted for a longer period of time by more people, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that leads on to sort of this idea of functionality then, because obviously that's something else that's got to make, presumably, you tell me, functionality and timelessness. The safety pin's a good example. My pencil is quite a good example. There you are. What do you think about the functionality, this aspect towards what we're looking at when it comes to timeless design?
Okay, I think with functionality, as well as what we were saying for aesthetics, it must still perform the task that it was created for, or it has to evolve with the user need, with the needs that the user has as they evolve. In our industry, where fixtures are permanently installed in the space, they are expected to last over a decade. The products not only need to look good, so their aesthetics, but also to perform as well as they did when they were new. And they still need to provide a seamless and gracious experience for the user.
Bit of nodding there from you, Matt?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a couple of great points I think Dana made, which I hadn't possibly, thought of. And I think, this whole thing about a product or design that ages gracefully, yes, there undoubtedly elements of design will age, but it's aging gracefully and still being, relevant today. And I think the other part, functionality, from a hospitality, particularly like a guest room perspective, you've got to ensure functionality is key, and it works, and it's maintainable, and it's detailed well so that it lasts. Otherwise, another sign of it aging ungracefully is poor wear and maintenance. So aging gracefully is a great line to underline under many design aspects within a hotel.
Sure. Aging gracefully.
Aging gracefully, as I'd love to. Yeah.
You're doing very well. You're looking great.
I kind of want to put a spin on that too. Do you mind if I? I can put a spin and kind of expand on that, where as designers, we have to be magicians of sort, because, as Matt mentioned, the guest room, it needs to withstand, a lot of wear and tear, but it also needs to function differently for the different guests. And the guest room is just an example where, the sitting area needs to be the perfect dining space if the guest wants to eat dinner in their room or have a snack in their room. It needs to be the perfect workspace so that, unlike me, who's in a hotel lobby, they have a place in their room where they can work with proper lighting, that they can kind of sit by the window and do their makeup, or just use it as a seating area that's comfortable enough to be accessible to the television so they can watch TV. So it needs to function differently for the different guests. And the same goes with, a lot of times we're programming public spaces to be different for the different guests, and that's obviously goes into generating more revenue for the owner. But being able to walk into a hotel and having a room, experiencing a room differently each time you go, I think is a beautiful thing that we need to be functional in that way. Absolutely, and allowing the same guest to have different experiences for different uses when he's on holiday and when he's on business, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. How about this idea, though, of we talked a little bit about wear and tear and longevity and things like this. How do you approach design to ensure that the life cycle is as long as possible, i.e. to try and reduce the frequency of refreshments or refreshes rather, or soft refurbishments? Matt, I'm thinking, looking at you, Kelly, how do you guys go about that?
I think, for me, I think there's a couple of things in there just to react is one is, I think, from a technology perspective, is keeping technology quite light within the fabric of the guest accessible technology, quite light, I should say, because we carry so much technology in our hands that is evolving at such a rate, and certainly within Marriott we have the Bonvoy app where we try and push a lot of guest experience through that, so you can have mobile check-in, can communicate with the hotel in your own terms and get messages back. So that's one way to ensure, that the product doesn't date from a technology perspective. But I think, we would invest in BMS and back-end systems, which would be more energy efficient. But from a design perspective, talking about the design, I think we always drive, and this is pretty common across a lot of brands and designers, is to drive something completely timeless. It's something that's unique, something that's original, and has a level of authenticity. We push that through asking designers to go away and create a very narrative-based piece of research before they jump into designing the hotel, looking at historical references to do with the location, the hotel, social, and any physical insights, so that those can manifest themselves into the design in a way that for us, if that's done well, the product doesn't date and it becomes more timeless aesthetic, because it has more thought behind it rather than just meeting an immediate fashion requirement.
So this idea of authenticity within the design narrative, if you like. Kelly, how do you see that?
We love that. Matt is spot on. We start every project with a kickoff. After we determine schedule and budget, we dive into a narrative, and the narrative can be driven by the owner, by inspiration. We're doing a historical hotel. It's a Marriott project in downtown Chicago now, where it was derived from an influencer. And it's the story of, it's a fictitious woman that we created that travels the world. And so the story can come from anything. It doesn't necessarily need to be the neighborhood or the city, but it needs to be a deep enough dive to where operations becomes the storyteller. So the front desk can kind of talk about Tabby, the woman that lived here for decades. And so I think that does give it depth, the project depth, and some timelessness, because that story goes on and on.
Donna, what about you? You're involved in making products that really need to fulfill many of these sort of functionality aspects, as well as the aesthetics, of course. But again, to be there and just to keep on keeping on. How do you deal with the technology, perhaps, that Matt mentioned?
Yes, so the experience that you were mentioning, for us, when we're designing a product, we need to think beyond the aesthetics and the immediate function, but include the whole experience. How is the user going to interact with the product? And how are we going to be able to provide an unforgettable experience? So we think about that dynamic functionality that we were talking before, those products that serve for their purpose today, but also tomorrow, and then they evolve with the needs of the user. And for these, we use meaningful technology. So when I say meaningful technologies just not for the sake of technology, but a technology that really improves the quality of our lives. The user doesn't need to understand how this technology is working. They can just focus on the experience. So when you think about—
Give us an example perhaps of that, Donna.
Yes, I was thinking about our intelligent toilets or our digital controls for showers. We hide the technology behind tactile and intuitive controls that allow the user to create their perfect experience at that right moment, whenever they need it, and be able to come back to it. So these controls combine a familiar form or a familiar gesture. You just turn a knob, but then behind there's all this advanced technology that will create a personalized experience for you. You can control the power of water, light, and sound with the digital controls in the shower. You control the water flow, the temperature, the steam function, lighting, music. You completely can immerse yourself in this shower experience with a technology that is behind the controls that you are manipulating the way you will manipulate any other control or any other shower faucet.
Okay, so a bit like Matt was saying, on the Bonvoy app, they have controls a lot of the guest experience, or helps control it, or deliver it rather. Here you've got on my phone, for example, I could have a setting saying this is my 5 a.m. shower, the wake up one, and here's my late evening, I want to just chill out and go, nice warm shower and what have you. You could change all those settings and just have one button to push, and instantly you'd get the experience you wanted. you requested.
Absolutely. And then all your family can have their own setting. So it's not just yours. Yours is yours. Then your wife comes and it's her settings. So that personalized experience just for you or just for the user when they need it at the time that they need it.
I can imagine some fun in families with that going on. Just change the name quickly and away you go. Kelly, this idea of timeless design, though, and the return on investment. You mentioned to me that investors, it's often the ROI is just too long for them. So really, you have to do it. How do you, as an interior designer, really deliver these valuable, time-saving, money-saving benefits?
Sure. So we think like an owner. So we go into the project with the architect and really like to space plan and think through how to best use every inch of their space and every inch of the space and create a flow. We really love a bit of a journey to the reception desk. So the entry experience is a bit longer. And the idea is, as the guest is kind of bringing their bags through, they're looking around to see, where their spot's going to be later in that day. Or maybe they had planned to work from their room, but now they found a niche that they think would be perfect. And then, they're going to order a coffee or a cocktail. They're going to ask their guests that they're meeting for dinner to come and meet them for, a drink beforehand to see the beautiful new hotel. So we're thinking through things on a level that's more than just aesthetic, making sure that we're creating, different spaces for different guests. So like there's a new brand we're doing for Hyatt. We're helping them create, and it happens to be in Nashville. And they have this little niche that's not very big. It's like a 10 by 10 room. And we just decided to do kind of a podcast room, which would have been wonderful for today, or a writer's, it could be a writer's room or a podcast room, a recording studio. It doesn't cost a lot more money, but it's rentable space now, which would have otherwise been, we kind of stole it from the back of house. So finding creative ways to make spaces generate revenue, I think is really important.
And how about this idea of timeless, though, in terms of trying to the takeaways, if you like, of producing a design that's going to last and avoid being refurbished in 5 to 8 years, but give it a sort of a 10 to 15 year. Are there some little tips and tricks you've got up your sleeve?
Sure, absolutely. So I always take a look at, where the guest has a lot of touch points, high traffic areas. Those are areas that, we tend to pay attention to. We maybe add more pattern to, if there's a carpet, we do a hard floor. And again, we're trying to drive that balance between budget and timelessness, because they can, it's a tight wire, but it's very, very doable. So, trying to find where, you're going to get the most wear and tear and make those spaces, cleanable. The addition, I'll go back to that example. I mean, they're all covers. And so operations, and Marriott made a commitment that they were going to just keep up with them more, wash the sofa covers, and then they can carry on with this design that I don't think a lot of people felt was doable.
Okay, and that's nice. Let's talk of another aspect. I always think of when I'm looking at things that are timeless. If something's timeless and it's going to last forever, does this imply that timeless design is kind of bland and boring? God forbid. Would you agree with me, or do you think it's?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
You want me, Matt? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, no, you go take it. Oh, sorry.
So, I mean, it can be in rich woods. It can be like really beautiful details that have already stood the test of time. And, I think of, carved wood columns, or, a beautiful old worn floor. It is timeless. It will never go out of style.
And in fact, it's going to get better, isn't it? That's the best thing about a good wooden.
It just gets, yes, just the point made earlier about the leather. We try and tell our clients that some of these things are inherently, we'll do a leather. If we do a leather top bar, it's very intentional that you're going to get the drink rings and the wear and tear, that is the look we're going for. And same with like leather seating, when a client comes back and they're like, there's wear in this, like, that's the beautiful part of it, and that never gets old. And the older it gets, the more beautiful.
and potentially more comfortable.
Ideally, yes.
But what about this? What about the addition? I mean, do you think really that the sort of this very sort of monochromatic color scheme is going to last forever? Do we think we're always going to need those bed throws that you see on every bed? I can go to all sorts of different, and I have been, luckily, different editions around the world, and it's a very, very similar experience in the guest room in particular. Is that timeless design, or is that just brand standards?
Well, it's
No.
more than just. Oh, go ahead. You guys
No, please, no.
No, I think we need Matt to answer, actually.
Yeah, I think
Don't
so
give him
too.
time to think.
Yeah, no. Yeah, give it time to think. No, it's a good question, and there will be many different views and perspectives on it. For me, I think it is timeless. I think those properties have aged well. I think there is, as Kelly outlined before, some consideration about durability. And Marriott set out there to do something daring that wasn't the norm. But I think if you take a step back,
That's what I mean. At the time, it was daring. Is it still daring now?
It still has such a big following. I mean, the Edition hotels worldwide. If you look in Bodrum, it's consistently the rates and occupancy is through the roof. So the market, as long as the guests, and it's about the guests and the guest experience or wanting that, then we will continue to deliver on it. But I think interesting when you look at some of these properties and you talk about timelessness and maybe touching a little bit upon sustainability, a lot of the areas that much as Kelly was mentioning that will wear are the soft elements, the fundamental things of the approach of the floors or the walls, the lighting. Those things are there for the long term, 20-30 year cycles, particularly in some properties. And that's beyond that's timeless. You expect to refresh aspects of FF&E and so forth over time, but the hard materials and the fabric of the building, and as Kelly was talking before, I think what she was really touching upon was this holistic approach to just considering what is the human or the guest experience, and really it's almost thinking about what that psychological interaction is that guests have with a hotel or a space that makes them feel, how that makes them feel, but also, drives them to come back for that experience again.
Cool. Any other thoughts before we move perhaps on to this idea of timelessness and sustainability? Any further thoughts on things that are important for timeless design? I think we touched a little bit there, Matt, on your one element of one part of your portfolio, but do you have other things going on with W and a refresh there? You've got a diverse portfolio. Kelly, on the other hand, you're also looking at all sorts of different brands. Is it horses for courses, or the same sort of principles apply across the board? Kelly, maybe you take that first, and Matt can look at it as well.
Sure. So each brand has their own DNA. So we do a deep dive each time we are creating a new brand with the brand. So in terms of sustainability, I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you talking about sustainability?
No, I was thinking more actually about just tying up the design and functionality, aesthetics and functionality type idea before we move on to sustainability, really.
So I think we start each project the same way with a narrative. And so, but the DNA changes based on the brand. And so, and some put a more sustainable emphasis on their brand, the Canopy brand, for instance, with their, carafes of water, and they have like a in the corridor area, they have a water station that we have to program for. So each brand has a bit of a different kind of way they approach it. I don't see as heavy of an emphasis on the brand side yet. I hope I'm not making Matt upset. I just don't see as heavy of an emphasis yet on the sustainable aspect of it. I'm starting to see some things, and I think they're doing that more on the operations side, whereas they're leaving that to us on the design side, which we're happy to be responsible for.
Okay, Matt, what do you think about really focusing again just on sort of the design, aesthetics, functionality side of things?
Yeah, I think it's just focusing, I think, back on just keeping it on the design and the functionality. I think really, Kelly summed it up. I mean, we have, certainly when we're focusing on luxury brands, we have our, individual positioning and DNA of those brands that we need to kind of pull through into the properties. But it's not a cookie cutter approach. We're looking to, I think very much probably like Kelly's projects is curate an experience that is fit for that locale. And whether it's a Ritz-Carlton, it have the embodied parts of the DNA of the Ritz-Carlton, but it really will, hugely be influenced by its location. And that's what guests are looking for. And that's what, ultimately doesn't age, because the experience and the design is right and honest and executed well, and has those fantastic local references that could embody detailed elements of manufacture, local crafting, etc. That's what, for me, makes something timeless.
Super. Okay. Well, let's look at this idea of sustainability and timelessness. I mean, obviously, sustainability is a laudable approach, but we really need to be doing more than that, in my opinion. This is a sort of little rant. We really need to be doing and aiming for regenerative sustainability, because the status quo we're in at the moment is not obviously sufficient. So we need to be doing more than that. And this is, I think, particularly applies to all of us in this industry who are doing things at scale. It's a chance to make a real difference. The best thing about timeless is the fact that it's it'll last forever. So that's kind of the ultimate bit of sustainability. What are we doing with regard to design for sustainability? And I'm thinking here perhaps by starting with looking at water consumption, big issue right now. It's a high on the essentials list for various building certifications, and investors are very keen to focus on this because it'll obviously increase the value of their building. How are you, Dana, maybe we start with you really. How are you dealing with this in terms of reduced water consumption in your products?
Yes, guys. So there is a quote from David Kohler, our chair and CEO. It's in the lobby of our new product development building here where I am located today. And it says, business success doesn't matter much if we can say we left the world a better place than we found it. And I think this is is our mantra, right? For Kohler, this reflects the commitment we have of creating a positive impact for tomorrow and for the generations to come. And when you think about it, water is at the heart of everything we do at Kohler. It's part of our manufacturing process, and it's also part of the utility of most of our products. So we're definitely committed to the conservation of this natural resource on both ends, on the operations and also for the products. So with operations, we're in a constant search of looking for ways of how to minimize the water use in our operations. We have implemented water reduction practices all over the globe in our plants to reduce that water intake. And then on our products, of course, we want to help our customers and our hotels and our commercial spaces that use the products to use products that save water without compromising on the user experience. So we have, you name it, right? Like toilets, faucets, shower heads with the WaterSense label that means that it meets the specifications for water efficiency and performance. Our toilets meet or exceed the industry standards for water conservation. We have flushing technologies that assure that it flushes completely the first time you flush your toilet, and it stays cleaner longer, so less time cleaning and less water used for the environment. And there's a very, I call it a beautiful technology that we use in our faucet that is called the catalyst technology. And this is a technology
catalyst technology.
Catalyst, yes.
Catalyst, yeah.
It infuses air into the water droplets to make them feel larger for a more like luxurious experience when you take a shower without increasing the use of water. So you're not using more water. The water is less, but the droplets look bigger. So these are different technologies that we use exactly to save water. We think water is precious, and we need to do everything we can to save water.
Just as well Air is free. Well, currently anyway. Matt, what about this on the guest experience? I mean, that's a very big thing. Some people don't even notice these water saving showers, which is exactly the idea of what Dana's trying to do. Hopefully, even gives them a better experience than they had before. You tell us what your reaction is on the warfront of guest experience.
Yeah, no, I think it's sustainability. I mean, it's a huge topic. I think it's safe to say that it's at the forefront of everyone's minds these days. And I think everyone has a part to play. We have, as a big company, we have brand standards and so forth. But the world is kind of moving at such a pace that the designers, people are designing products, really have a place to play in kind of pushing and providing us with options of unique materials or progression of technology to put into our hotel. So you can't, I think, rely on purely brand standards these days. So we look for our designers to push new materials and how that will work on the guest experience, but it should be seamless. There are great products out there at the moment. We've seen from, you're talking about water saving, recycled fabrics to carpets, which are huge cost, which huge amounts of recycled content or 100% recycled content that really don't impact the guest experience in a negative manner, actually only enhance it. And, if you look at the emerging guests, all of them are being very much focused and driven upon their footprint, ecological footprint of their stay, from everything from how they got there to how to water usage, to where the foods come from. And we have a part to play with that in working with designers, even when you're looking at the fit out of a hotel at every level of where the material comes from. There's a resurgence I think within Europe of local tradesmen and people and fabricators, which is fantastic. So we've cut down hugely on projects I've seen over the last 10 years of shipping things halfway around the world. That seems to have significantly dropped, which is really great.
And totally builds on the authentic story we were relating
completely
to
exactly.
earlier. And Matt, I think you've got a big thing going on within Marriott with regard to BREEAM,
Yes.
which is a British standard.
Yeah. We have, as we say, everything's changing so rapidly that we do have a quite a large committee base of people who are looking at initiatives across all levels, and there's so many touch points. It could be energy, water saving, and then the actual physical product itself, construction technique. It's vast. So there's a whole team looking at it and how we can realistically start to push owners, banks, lenders to go down this route. But I think what's also really pleasing is I think a number of conferences have been at recently, but also actually we've started to see come through a number of owners driving in their RFP processes and lenders saying, the hotel has to meet these requirements in terms of green credentials to meet a loan agreement. And I think that's fantastic to see, because that's going to then push the change at the top and at the bottom, i.e. from Kelly, working up from a design, and then banks reinforcing it or lenders enforcing it from the top, so it's coming down. And I think everyone wants to see it, and I think it will. What we'll probably see now is more rapid changes. This builds pace.
It's amazing that's taking so long, because it's just the right thing to do. But money talks, and sometimes the environment suffers because of it. Dana, at Kohler, you're doing some quite interesting things with your waste lab. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so we have at Kohler a net zero goal by 2035, and this net zero goal has two parts. One is reducing or offsetting 100% of our greenhouse gas emissions, and then send zero waste to landfills across our global operations. So we recognize that responsibility for the waste that we generate, and we need to take that seriously, because this net goal zero, it's coming pretty fast in 2035. So we're working for an efficient use of our materials in our operations, and then also finding new ways for our waste. So what do we do with our waste? And that's how the Waste Lab you just mentioned started. So the Waste Lab is a small scale studio here in Kohler, Wisconsin, where we reimagine the future of our manufacturing waste. We look at our different waste streams, and instead of seeing waste, we see possibilities. We look at it and we say, what can we do with it? So what we're doing right now is we're reusing it and we're putting it back into our products. So we have 2 collections of tiles. They're handcrafted from nearly 100% recycled materials. And these recycled materials are our own waste. So we use dry pottery coal. That is when we produce our toilets and our lavatories out of ceramic or vitreous material, and they are glazed. For some reason, if they chip or if they break, or you cannot put them in the kiln to fire, that material, that clay has already been glazed, so we cannot recycle and put it back as regular clay. So we dry that, and then we grind it and make a fine powder, and we're making tiles out of that.
So you make it a new substance to make the tiles out of some waste product and defect materials, whatever it might be, and then you just use those again, right? Brilliant. Yes.
We also use our pottery wastewater sludge. That is when we do our manufacturing, all that water that gets used that has clay and glaze and impurities passes through filters, and these filters collect all that material that is basically clay and glaze. So then again, we dry, we crush, we make a powder, and we make tiles out of these. And for the glaze of these tiles, we use our cast iron slag, which is the impurity from the melting of our cast iron, the cast iron that we use to make bathtubs and these products. We use that, that's basically iron. We use that as a colorant for our tiles, as well as the waste enamel powder. When we enamel our bathtubs, and there's waste enamel that goes around on the ground and cannot be reintroduced as a pure enamel, then we use that also to give color to our tiles.
I know it's a waste lab, but maybe it's also a waste kitchen, to follow on from Matt's analogy of the recipe. You know, all good chefs don't throw anything away, do they? They'll use the carcass to make a soup, and the vegetable chop ends of the waste into something else, and away they go. So a great little story of circularity there. And as we are talking about sustainability and circularity, I think we've kind of reached a nice conclusion there, looking at all these aspects around timeless design, both aesthetics, functionality, and sustainability. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and wish you well on your journeys, wherever they may take you. So thanks a lot, guys, and see you along the road somewhere else soon.
Thanks, Guy. Thank you, guys.